Today we're going to be looking at an intelligent vocal processor that's great for videos, for commercials, for ebooks, for podcasts, I think you get it. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Home Studio Simplified channel. My name is Robert McClellan and today we're going to be looking at the Voxessor Intelligent EQ. This is put out by a company named United Plugins, a company that I had reached out to for sponsorship for the 10,000 subscriber giveaway, which by the way is still going on. If you'd like to get involved in that, link will be in the description down below. However, when all the sponsors started flooding in, I actually had already reached my 10 prize limit. I was going to give away one prize for each 1,000 subscribers that I'd gained over the past few years. With that, I told them I'd love to do another future giveaway on some of the plugins that they offer. However, they were kind enough to send me a few of their plugins to actually demo and try out beforehand to see if that would actually be a good fit for my audience. So I'm going to make an entire playlist of United plugins only so that you'll be able to check them all out before we get into a giveaway in the near future. All right, so now we have the Voxessor pulled up in a project. I'd like to use this on some dialogue type stuff first, just to kind of see how that sounds, as this is one of the things that they said it really shines on. So I've went ahead and pulled up a recent episode of the podcast where I've interviewed David Glenn from the 𝗵𝗃 Academy. And what I want to see is exactly how this intelligent EQ works. As you can see here, there's several different controls, knobs, buttons, things that we're going to take a closer look at here in just a minute. But first, let's dive into some sound examples right out of the gate, because let's face it, that's what most people are going straight for anyway. And then we'll actually look at some of these controls and exactly what they do. I would make mention that I've also not really used this plugin a whole lot. In fact, I really just pulled it up and kind of tinkered around with some buttons. So this is really going to be kind of a blind reaction from me as well to see exactly how this works. So let's go ahead and check this out. Okay, so here's the original dialogue from the podcast. Loud noise in 3, 2, 1. You are listening to the Home Studio Simplified podcast. Welcome back to the Home Studio Simplified podcast. This is episode number 65. In today's episode, we'll be interviewing David Glenn from the 𝗵𝗃 Academy. Okay, didn't sound too bad at all, but let's go ahead and throw on now the Voxessor and let's start adjusting some things here. So right out of the gate, we can see we have an auto level. This here is an EQ of sorts I was made aware of by reading the manual that comes with this. Now, the EQ curves themselves are based off of several different industry standard algorithms that they've looked at, and also based off of your gender, whether you're male or female. So this is kind of an intelligent process. Let's go ahead and take a listen to it, and we'll kind of see how this works. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and solo the vocal out without the background music. We're going to actually put the background music back in here in a minute and see how this could help that as well. If it works like I think it works, it might actually help to take the dialogue of the podcast to the next level as well. Let's go ahead and we'll just loop this section here and kind of tinker around with some of these knobs here. Welcome back to the Home Studio Simplified podcast. This is episode number 65. In today's episode, we'll be interviewing David Glenn from the 𝗵𝗃 Academy. Welcome back to the Home Studio Simplified podcast. This is episode number 65. In today's episode, we'll be interviewing David Glenn. Yeah, that sounds pretty good right there, actually. So what you can see here is you have sort of your quick EQ, as I like to call it, an intelligent EQ of sorts, and then you have your input and your output. Also, there's an intensity knob. This is pretty cool. So what I'm already picking up on is the fact that this is sort of a blendable feature. So I guarantee you, if I turn this all the way down, it's going to sound unaffected at all. Welcome back to the Home Studio Simplified podcast. This is episode number 65. In today's episode, yeah, that's exactly what happens. So it's sort of like a mix knob. So basically, by turning down this intensity to 0, you're not getting any of that effect from the plugin whatsoever. But as you turn it up, the effect begins to get blended in, sort of like parallel processing. So now we're going to go ahead and test out the auto level feature. Now this is where I feel like it would really come in handy, especially for podcasting, because sometimes when you're interviewing a guest, or even, I myself, when I'm doing a podcast, sometimes I'm doing some other things with some buttons and I'm moving backwards and forwards, which means my dialogue is not always going to be at a consistent level. So hopefully what this is going to do is just sort of level things out without sounding too overprocessed. Let's check it out. Going to go ahead and turn the intro music back on, so this could be a little bit loud. So loud noise in 3, 2, and 1. Podcast. This is episode number 65. In today's episode, we'll be interviewing David Glenn from the Mix Academy. Welcome back to the Home Studio Simplified Podcast. This is episode number 65. In today's episode, we'll be interviewing David Glenn from the Mix Academy. Welcome back to the Home Studio Simplified Podcast. This is episode number 65. In today's episode... Okay, so immediately what I picked up on is it actually is doing exactly what it said it was going to do. It's almost like someone's kind of sitting there writing that fader. You'll notice here that the dynamics of the vocals are pretty straightforward. We have some higher peaks here as well as some dips here. What this is attempting to do is just sort of level all of that out so it sounds the same across the board. In this particular instance, I noticed a slight difference. It wasn't earth-shattering. However, I am running through outboard gear that's already doing a lot of the limiting and volume leveling in and of itself. So this might be something that would be better tested even on maybe a sung vocal. So we might try that out here in just a little bit. I can definitely tell that it is leveling things out to another degree as well. All right, so the next feature that we're going to check out is this match ideal down here. You'll notice it says that you can analyze your voice for 5 seconds, and then it's going to match your voice to an ideal EQ curve that sounds good on your voice. Let's go ahead and check that out. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the music for now, and we'll click Learn. Welcome back to the Home Studio Simplified Podcast. This is episode number 65. In today's episode, we'll be interviewing David Glenn from the Mix Academy. Welcome back to the Home Studio Simplified Podcast. This is episode number 65. In today's episode, we'll be interviewing David Glenn from the Mix Academy. Okay, so this is telling me that my ideal EQ should sound something like this. So yet again, there's a mix knob here, or a match percentage knob in this case. If I set this to 0, this is what it sounded like before. Welcome back to the Home Studio Simplified Podcast. This is episode number 65. In today's episode, we'll be interviewing David Glenn from the Mix Academy. All right, now you can see that at 50%, when I brought it up, it really did help my vocals to sound just a little bit more present, a little more upfront. I believe, like with any plugin, this is something you could probably overdo. So if I set this to 100. Welcome back to the Home Studio Simplified Podcast. This is episode... Yeah, that's a bit too much. But right there, about 50, maybe even a little bit before that, actually sounded really good. Welcome back to the Home Studio Simplified Podcast. This is episode number 65. In today's episode... Okay, now we're going to check this out on a female vocal. This is London Lohan. I hope I'm saying that name right. These multi-tracks are available on the Produce Like a Pro Academy. If you're not a member yet, you need to be. It's an awesome community full of individuals who are passionate about music just like you, and I guarantee you it will take your music production skills as well as mixing, mastering skills to the next level. All right, so I'm going to throw an instance of the Voxessor here on her lead vocal. Let's go ahead and listen to it before we put any kind of processing with the Voxessor on here. And this is just a real quick mix to kind of get you a feeling of what it sounds like.
Can't forget our past love, can't live regretting it all.
Okay, so now I'm going to kind of put this on and just start tweaking the knobs, see where we can get with this. So the first thing I want to do though is I want to use this Analyze Your Voice, and I'm assuming that you have to have this soloed, but probably don't. But I want to do it that way anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and analyze the voice now.
Can't forget our past love, can't live regretting it all. A mistake.
Okay, that was pretty phenomenal, I have to say. So if you listen to the before and after, this is before.
Can't forget
After.
our past love, can't live regretting it all.
Just kind of brings out some more of the presence of the vocal, some more of the character of the vocal. Honestly, I liked it. I think I'm going to turn the match down just a tad bit though.
Can't forget our past love.
Nice. All right. Let's go ahead and start dialing in the rest of these settings and we'll just see what we can get.
Can't forget our past love, can't live regretting it.
Now, I'm assuming if I use the ideal match that I don't need this up here any longer. I don't think that this affects it after the fact. So if I click match ideal, I don't believe that the EQ curves up here affect it any longer. I could be wrong on that. But let's give it a listen, see if it does. We'll go ahead and solo that out. That might be a good test for this, actually.
And live regretting it all. Our mistakes weren't worth the making. I couldn't help myself in love. I've been bound to fall. It's the darkness that hurts the most. It's the lonely that chills my bones.
I think it does, but honestly, it doesn't seem like it's not like overboard. So it's not like, I think you could adjust them both to actually get a better sound that you're wanting. In fact, when I put this to woman and then use the match here, I think that sounds really good if you take the before and after. So here's the before.
And live regretting it all.
And here's the after.
And live regretting it all.
It really just brings out more of the character in her voice. I like it. So I'm going to go ahead and use the de-esser now. Okay, we'll go ahead and use this in context with the mix.
And live regretting it all. Our mistakes weren't worth the making. I couldn't help myself in love. I've been bound to fall. It's the darkness that hurts the most. It's the lonely that chills my bones.
So yeah, at least to my ears, I feel like this is really doing a lot for even vocals that are being sung. So I think this is a very versatile plugin that could be great for dialogue or even for music production in and of itself. And I know there's some clever individuals out there, some very creative individuals that would be able to take this and use it on instruments as well. If you find a good use for it outside of vocals and you've used it on instruments or maybe a synthesizer, I bet this would really shine on piano and acoustic guitar. Leave that in the comment section down below and let me know how you've used it and whether or not it was good on that source. Likewise, if you have any questions about this plugin in general, go ahead and drop that in the comment section down below, and I'll be sure to try to answer any questions I possibly can. If I can't give you the right answer, I'll be sure to direct you to someone who can. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is obviously there's a bypass button, which isn't labeled as bypass on this particular plugin. It's actually labeled as on or off. Also, there is a preset section here where you can actually create your own presets or load some of the predefined presets that they've given you. Likewise, there is a bypass for the auto level. Here is your EQ section, and here are the blend knobs for what you've just created in that EQ section. All right, so let's talk about the EQ sweep first. As you can see, it goes from man, guy, woman to girl. Now, as a mix engineer and a content creator, I know that to EQ human voice properly, you have to set up several different points and ideal frequencies to tweak, as well as their cues differ according to the speaker's character. So with Voxessor, you may skip the search for these points and simply just sweep for the manliest to the girliest EQ setting, and you're set up within just a few seconds. Now, let's talk about the auto level button. The Voxessor automatically fixes volume imperfections caused by a speaker's performance to achieve a smooth and flawless voiceover flow. This comes especially in handy whenever you're talking about long performances like documentaries and ebooks, or podcasts for that matter. One of the great things about this plugin is that it has an automatic gain compensation built in under the hood that quickly adapts to current settings and then ensures that the output sounds as loud as the input. This even protects you from thinking that something sounds better in cases that it's just louder. Therefore, this plugin might be great to use in tandem with other plugins when you're trying to make adjustments, but you don't want the volume to be a factor. Like most of their plugins, it provides a maximum audio quality that you can get as well, and it uses an internal 64-bit audio processing that can handle any sampling rate, including 190 kilohertz or even higher. Likewise, I love the fact that the photorealistic graphic user interface of the plugin gives you the feeling that you're touching the real hardware, but it also easily adapts to your needs. You can always drag the arrow in the bottom right corner to change its size, make it smaller to save valuable screen space, or even enlarge it to make it easier to use. I really feel like this plugin also has a smart dynamic section. I love the fact that it's simple with just one knob compression and one knob gating. Those are internally preset and tuned for dialogues and voiceovers, However, their characters allow you to use Voxessor on vocals too. Now, some things that this plugin offers that not a lot of other plugin companies are doing is that it actually has a smart bypass. The intelligent way that their plugins manage bypassing ensures that you don't get any click or harmful noises when automating a perimeter. It also compensates for latency, ensuring that the bypass states are perfectly in sync with each other. Another awesome thing is this plugin actually intelligently detects whether it makes sense to perform processing at all, and if not, it temporarily turns on sleep mode. In such a state, it requires virtually no CPU at all and saves the computing source for other processes. And lastly, another huge win for this plugin company is that they offer hassle-free software protection. That means there's no iLock, no dongle, nor even an internet access is required for activation. The software they create uses license files to activate your software, so you can freely use the purchased software on all your computers as long as you are the user. All right, well, I hope you found this brief overview of the Voxessor Intelligent EQ insightful, informative, and at the very least entertaining. If you'd like to get your hands on this plugin yourself, there is a link in the description of this video where you can go and download a free, unlimited 15-day trial for you to try out yourself and see if it's actually something you'd like to add to your arsenal. Until next time, remember, we can dream alone, we can even create alone, but together we can achieve so much more.